I think it's time to continue Grandma's story, Mom. Isn't it?
Of course, sweetheart, it's time for the next part.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Let's hear it from Mom.
Wait a minute. I want to be part of telling the story too. How about Mom and I narrate it together?
But you, sis, don't know the first part of Grandma's story.
Don't worry, sweetie. I have already read it.
Really? Okay then.
Today, Mom and I will take turns telling a part of the rest of the story, and you and Dad will all just listen and enjoy.
Wow, that sounds exciting. I know you both will do great.
Thanks, kiddo.
We'll do our best to make it fun.
All right, I'll start first, and then you'll take a turn, okay?
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Is everyone ready to hear the next part of Grandma's story?
Yes.
Let's get started. I lived in this new world with humans, elves, and the prisoner who kept us safe. With time, I learned their language and culture. Now, I'm part of this world I didn't know before. The war between humans, elves, and monsters ended with humans and elves winning. They now control the land of Ultramoria. The prisoner, Solomon, my friend, took me to his simple home near the elves' houses. He protected me from any danger, even though the monsters and vampires were gone. Solomon was worried they might still have some hidden relatives in Ultramoria. He took good care of me, as a way of saying thank you for helping in the big war. He taught me the language of the people of Ultramoria. I spent time with the elves, sharing their food and daily activities. Now, I can talk like them because Solomon helped me learn their language. One day, Solomon and I were at home together. I wanted to know something I had been curious about since I came to Ultramoria. I asked Solomon about the kind of creatures he was, because he wasn't human, elf-like, or any known animal. He told me he was an orc, but he originally came from humans. I didn't quite understand what he meant by being an orc of human origin, so I asked him to explain more to me. Then he decided to tell me his story from the beginning to the end.
For years ago, I came to Ultramoria in a way I didn't know. I was a human, a young man of 20 years old, living in a village called Void Haven with my father and his wife. It was a cold village surrounded by big mountains that always had snow. I never really felt happy because my mother had passed away when I was born. My father married a woman who never showed me a smile since I had known her. She was called Lucrezia. She had hated me so much, always hitting me and calling me hurtful names in front of my father. At first, I didn't understand why my father didn't do anything about how she treated me. I thought maybe he didn't love me either. But when I came to Ultramoria, accidentally, I found out many things I didn't know before. Before I got here, my stepmother had a strange room in our house that was always dark. She would go inside and lock the door, not letting anyone else enter, not even my father. I was very curious about what was in that room. So, I decided to secretly take the key from my stepmother to find out her secret. During one evening, I stayed up until midnight, waiting for my father and stepmother to sleep. Silently, I went into their room and looked for the key in the darkness. Because it was very dark, I couldn't find the key, so I left and went to the kitchen. I took a knife and went to the dark room. With the knife, I tried to open the door, knowing it would be difficult. But my curiosity encouraged me to keep trying and not give up. All of a sudden, I felt Lucrezia standing behind me, watching me trying to open the door of her secret room. I felt very scared, and my heart raced fast. But then something surprising happened. Lucrezia smiled at me, which she had never done before. She whispered softly,
"The knife won't open this door. Here's the key. You can go in. You're the first person to enter this room after me."
Then Lucrezia went back to her room. Her smile was unexpected and made me feel both scared and unsure. It seemed like something bad might be behind that dark door. Even though I was unsure, my curiosity was stronger than my fear. I used the key and went into the room, discovering a place I had never been brave enough to enter. Our house had a scary and strange room, with dark corners. Even though the light from the candles was not very strong, I could see dust on the wooden floor and cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. So, I walked carefully, feeling uneasy in the strange room. I was ready for anything unexpected that might surprise me. Afterwards, I saw a book in a corner of the room, which seemed old and probably belonged to Lucrezia. I picked it up and opened the first page, where the title, "Schemes of My Happiness," caught my eye. Below the title, there was a symbol showing a devil, spider webs, bats, a sword, and blood. As I opened the book, my fear increased. I couldn't make myself turn the page and start reading in that terrifying room. So, I decided to leave and find a different place away from home to read the book. However, before leaving the room, my attention was drawn to a wooden door on the floor. Slowly, I approached it, holding the book of Lucrezia in my hand. I wanted to discover more secrets within the dark room. I opened the wooden door on the floor and saw a staircase leading to the down. But everything was dark and gloomy. I stood there, feeling confused between my curiosity pushing me to enter the wooden door on the floor and the fear warning me to stay away. Suddenly, a magical force took hold of me from within the staircase. I went down so fast, and I rolled down the steps for a long time until I reached the door of the prison where you first saw me. It felt then that I had been transported from the village of Void Haven to a different place on Earth, although I didn't know where. I fell among some frightening creatures with scary faces who were guarding the prison. My fear grew even stronger, and I still had the book of Lucrezia with me. Those scary creatures brought me to a distant place and forced me to eat something that looked like a small medicine. They left me there and went away. Soon after, my body began to hurt so much, and the pain was so hard that I fell on the ground. I thought I might be dying right at that moment, whispering to myself that if I had listened to my fear instead of my curiosity, none of this would have happened. Afterward, I wished some energy to read Lucrezia's book before I die in this strange world. But I didn't feel my eyes when I closed them. When I woke up, I found myself with creatures like humans but had long ears. They didn't seem bad like those who took me away and wanted to kill me. I felt better knowing I didn't die and still had hope for life and the chance to read Lucrezia's scary book, which might tell me how I got here and how I could go back to Voidhaven Village. The big surprise was my new body. I totally changed from a human shape to a different creature's shape. My body got bigger, and my face looked like a monster. But the long-eared creatures were kind and took care of me, helping me get stronger. Even though I didn't understand their language, they made me feel like part of them. They gave me food, taught me their language, and shared what they knew. I learned they were called elves, and I became an orc. I found out the good creatures in Ultramoria were elves and humans, and if they're okay, then Ultramoria is okay. But the bad creatures were monsters and vampires, and they could destroy Ultramoria. I also knew that when I came from my village and fell beside the prison door, the vampires thought I was from humans of Ultramoria. They thought I came to spy on them, so they tried to poison me with a bad pill. Luckily, they gave me the wrong pill, and it turned me into a big orc. I chose to use my new shape to protect Ultramoria from the bad monsters and vampires. I fought to help the elves and humans, so they could control their land as long as they were good creatures. So, I spent 3 years guarding Ultramoria's land using my big new body. Elves and humans moved around freely, while I stood strong against monsters and vampires. At the start of the 4th year, which is the current year, I decided to focus on reading Lucrezia's book, a book I never read except for the title, Schemes of My Happiness. Before I read it, I had been in a mood, and after reading, I became in another mood because of the shocking and bad plans Lucrezia wrote. From reading her book, I discovered that my mother was killed by poison that Lucrezia made her drink after giving birth to me. It wasn't the childbirth that caused her death as we had thought. I also found out that Lucrezia was an evil sorceress who enchanted my father, making him quiet and obedient even when he saw her treating me poorly. I discovered that the dark room was where she practiced magic, and the wooden floor door was part of her plans to make me go away because she didn't like me. All her harmful plans succeeded, and she must be happy now about it. So, I planned to return to Voidhaven. I wanted to make the bad witch Lucrezia pay for hurting my mom, dad, and me, but I thought I should first fight the monsters and vampires to protect the elves and humans in Ultramoria. Then, I hoped to find a way to become human again. After that, I planned to go back to Voidhaven and defeat Lucrezia for what she did to my family. However, I moved too quickly when I began fighting against the monsters and vampires. Reading the book, Schemes of My Happiness, made me very angry and want revenge. I hurried into battle in Ultramoria, and they captured me and put me in prison. They did this to deceive me and prevent me from stopping their attack on the elves and humans. Luckily, you arrived at the right time. When I first saw you in prison, I knew you were a stranger. You came from the house where I used to live. I understood your curiosity led you to the wooden floor door, and Lucrezia's magic brought you to this strange world. However, what I didn't understand was that even though I spoke to you in the language of Voidhaven and asked you to open the prison door because my friends were in a danger, you didn't understand my words. It appeared as if you came from a distant place, far from the cold village, and your language was different from ours.
I explained to Solomon that I came from a village far away, where there was poverty and drought. I said that my family and I were new to Void Haven, a place where I didn't know the language yet, and I also told him everything that happened to me. Then, I asked Solomon how we could go back to Void Haven and if there was any solution. He said the answer was mentioned in the book, Schemes of My Happiness, and this was Lucrezia's big mistake, which would be the cause of her death. He said he was waiting for a message from a human who knew a lot about magic in Ultramoria. This human knew how to make a special liquid that could change Solomon back from an orc to a human. The next morning, someone knocked on Solomon's door. He opened the door and saw a man holding a small bottle. The man said he had the special liquid that could help Solomon become human again. So, Solomon got very happy and excited. He drank the liquid right away. It made him feel pain, just like when he took the poisonous pill from the vampires. But then something amazing happened. Solomon started to change. His body changed back to the way it was before, a handsome young man of 24 years.